సార్ నమస్కారం సార్.
Welcome, madam.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. It's audible. Welcome to Dr. KV Sridevi, madam.
నాకు వినబట్టలేదు సార్ మీ వాయిస్.
Okay, welcome,
Hello.
Sridevi, madam. Welcome to APSCRT.
సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Giribabu garu,
Sir.
please invite her and yes.
Okay. Good morning, madam.
గుడ్
Hello?
మార్నింగ్ సార్.
Giribabu garu, open your camera,
Good
sir.
morning. Please welcome to APSRT, madam. SCRT. Please
సార్
give your valuable speech to our teachers are waiting, are eagerly joining this session, madam. Please continue your topic.
సార్ ఐ వుడ్ లైక్ టు నో వెదర్ ఐ యామ్ ఆడిబుల్ ఫస్ట్.
Yes, madam. It's audible.
Is it clear?
Clearly audible and visible. Okay.
Okay. And
Yes.
will you run the presentation or shall I?
Okay, madam.
మీరు రన్ చేస్తారా లేకపోతే నన్ను చేయమంటారా?
మీరే కంటిన్యూ చేయండి మేడం. మీరే కంటిన్యూ.
ఓకే 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 ఫైన్. ఎన్నింటికి స్టార్ట్ చేయాలి సార్? 11 కదా?
11, sir. 11, madam.
స్టార్ట్ చేయాలి.
ఇంకా 1 minute ఉంది కదా?
1 minute ఉంది. గిరిబాబు గారు, మీరు దీని గురించి ఏమైనా ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ గురించి ఇంట్రడక్షన్ కానీ మేడంని ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయడం కానీ ఇటువంటి ఉంటే మీరు ఆ 1 minute తీసుకోండి సార్. తర్వాత మేడం ఇంట్రడక్షన్ అవుతారు. గిరిబాబు గారు, మీరు కెమెరా ఆన్ చేసుకోండి సార్. మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేయండి సార్. చెప్పండి సార్.
గిరిబాబు గారు స్టార్ట్ చేయండి.
ఓకే సార్. సార్ ఆన్ చేశాను సార్ నేను.
గిరిబాబు గారు మీ వాయిస్ వస్తుందా? చెక్ చేయండి సార్ ఒకసారి.
వస్తుంది సార్. నాకైతే ఆడిబుల్ సార్.
మీరు మొదలెట్టండి సార్. ప్రోగ్రామ్ పరిచయం చేయండి సార్.
ఓకే సార్. నాది కెమెరా కనిపించడం లేదు సార్.
మీరు మొబైల్లో ఉన్నారా?
అవునవును సార్.
ఓకే, మొదలు పెట్టండి. తర్వాత కావాలంటే మీరు ల్యాప్టాప్కి వెళ్ళొచ్చు. ప్రెసెంట్ మీరు మాట్లాడి మేడం పరిచయం చేసేసి అప్పుడు మేడం డీల్ చేస్తారు కాబట్టి ఆ పీరియడ్ లో మీరు మొబైల్ నుంచి ల్యాప్టాప్ మారచ్చు.
రమేష్ సార్ పరిచయం చేస్తాను, అందుకోసం వెయిట్ చేస్తాను. రమేష్
బాబు గారు మీరు మేడం ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయండి. మేడం ప్రొఫైల్ ఉంది కదా, చేసి స్టార్ట్ చేయండి.
So good morning to all. Good morning to all. Sir, today we will start the online training for 8th class textbook and module teachers in AP. I will introduce the Madam, Mrs. K.V. Sridev Madam, is a assistant professor, NCERT. Okay, madam, please continue the session, madam.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Am I audible first of all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
audible.
Fine. Andarki namaskaram. Today's session is about how to transact NCERT textbooks, especially with respect to biology lessons. So let me start my session showing you the textbook. I hope the textbook is all visible to you. I mean, it's ulta, it is coming, but you can see this is the textbook. And I would like to start with something which is written in the preface of the book about the NCERT textbook. So that would give you an understanding of how this book is expecting the teachers to use it. So let me just read out few sentences from this, and then I'll share my presentation. It says, by and large, we have stuck to the format of class 7 book. That means we are continuing with the same format that is there in class 7. And by now, famous characters, Bujo and Paheli, have been used to make the text interactive. To make the text book interactive, we have two characters, Bujo and Paheli. And throughout the book, you find that they interact with each other, they talk to each other. You will have questions, you will have, some emotions, you will have some descriptions, you will have some doubts which are raised by these two characters, Bujo and Paheli. Attempts have been made to recall children's own experiences and build concepts around them. Basically, most of the concepts which we are introducing or which we are dealing with, we try to see that, or we try to find out what do the child know about it, what is his experience. Like when I talk about different plants or classification of plants, I would like to know from the children what do they know about plants. What are the different categories of plants that they find it in their surroundings. So I would like to start my class with what children know. That is basically the teacher need to find out the existing knowledge with the children. That is the first thing. and then build concepts around them. So we'll try to find out what the child knows, and then we try to help the child in building the concepts. This is designed to connect science that they study in the school with their everyday life. So we try to put activities in such a way that they get connected with their life. The life and what they learn in the school should be in an applicable form in their life, or what they see in the life have to be brought into the classroom. So it is vice versa. And then many activities have been suggested to clarify concepts. Some of these activities are so simple that children can perform them on their own. The requirement of the apparatus required for the activities is minimal. That means most of the activities are designed in such a way that with very, very low cost or no cost material, these activities can be conducted. Then and another thing, before we publish these activities, all these are performed and tried out, so that there will be no difficulty for children and the teachers to use these experiments. And then activities should also help in developing skills such as presentation of data in tabular and graphical forms, reasoning and drawing inference from the given data. So there are activities, there are experiments which are given where the child will tabulate the data, present the data, and come out with his own findings. So opportunities are provided for the child to carry out, certain small research, certain small experiments in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. Now, the language is kept as simple and as clear as possible, and a large number of photographs, illustrations, cartoons have been included to make the book very, very attractive and interesting. And to help the teachers evaluate children, a large number of exercises have been given at the end of the chapter. And teachers are encouraged to frame additional exercises to test the children's understanding. Some challenging exercises have also been devised for the children who would like to appear for the NTSC exam and other competitive exams. And we have a list of extended learning activities at the end of every chapter. Now, this is what I'm reading from the preface of the book. It is there in the preface of the book. You can go through it to get an understanding of what an NCERT book is and how it has to be transacted. Okay. Now, coming to the today's presentation, let me just share my presentation and I'll continue with you. 1 second, please. Yeah. I hope all of you are seeing the screen.
Yes, madam.
Thank you. So today we'll just continue with how to use this book. I just tried to give you a brief understanding of the textbook. What is written in the preface of the book, I have read out for you. Now we'll try to understand how to transact this particular textbook, especially the biology lessons. Now, let me tell you one thing. Andhra Pradesh had come out with its own textbooks. They were also having lot of activities, experiments, photographs, various kinds of activities. The similar kind we find in NCERT. Only certain differences are there which we need to understand to use this textbook in the classroom. So we'll just go with the basic idea of it and then go for the the actual transaction process. Now, before I go for transaction of the book, let me just remind all of you what is the nature of science. So, nature of science, when I say, I will not go into the details, but a basic information, I just would like to remind you that it is both process and product. And we strongly believe that science is full of processes which help us in developing or bringing out the product inside. Like There are a lot of skills like observing, hypothesizing, predicting, verifying. Then you have interpreting, generalizing, inferring. There are n number of process skills which need to be developed among the children so that they can come out with the products on their own. We want our children to, become independent discoverers. So we need to give opportunity for the child to observe, for the child to, practice the various skills of, skills or processes of science. So that is one thing. And when I talk about process, it includes scientific inquiry. Like there are many instances in the textbook where there are a lot of questions which are left unanswered. We have done it purposefully so that you can encourage the children to find answers on their own. When they are finding the answers, they try to question it first, they try to hypothesize, they try to collect data, they try to discuss, and they come out with the probable solutions of it. So we want the child to learn the process of scientific inquiry. When they are doing this, they will develop certain attitudes in them. Scientific attitude, they will get a favorable attitude towards science. They will develop interest in learning science. All these are very essential in a long run if they want to continue with science. And then when we develop these skills, able to discover what is already existing and can become independent learners in future, which is the ultimate goal of education. So this is what I just would like to briefly speak about nature of science. Now, we have NCERT had developed the science education curriculum or science curriculum for different stages. When you look into the upper primary stage, why I am saying upper primary stage, these curricular expectations are formulated stage wise, and we have put in, like for class 8 also, if you see, we expect that the children develop scientific temper and scientific thinking among them. A basic thing is they have to develop questioning mind. They should ask questions. Why is it happening? How is it happening? And then they try to find out the solutions also. So our curriculum is designed in such a way that we develop these abilities among the children. Secondly, it is not enough if we just transact the curriculum. It is very essential that we develop an understanding about nature of science. They need to understand that science or scientific knowledge is testable. It is developmental. And it has to be verified. And there is lot of creativity involved in it. Lot of innovative spirit is involved in it. These need to be developed among the children. And then, as I just now mentioned, we need to develop lot of process skills or science processes among the children so that they construct knowledge on their own. Now, another thing, important aspect is we need to develop appreciation of historical aspects of evolution of science. See, when I talk about existence of life or evolution concept, I need to develop that appreciation among the children, how much the scientists have spent their life. They have spent their whole life in coming out with something new. The child need to appreciate that process as well as the characteristic feature of the scientist. So in our textbooks, we have given a lot of information about various scientists and their contribution to society. Now, another important aspect I feel that it is most urgently needed to be attended to is to develop sensitivity towards environmental concerns. Day in, day out, we are listening to various issues related to environment. So children are going to be the future citizens of this country who have to take care and conserve the environment. So we need to develop sensitivity among them. And then they need to respect the dignity and rights, gender equity, honesty, integrity, cooperation, and concern for every life on this earth. So that respect has to be developed through the activities that you are designing in the classrooms, through the experiences that you are going to provide to the children in the classrooms. Now, for this, that curriculum, keeping these curricular expectations in mind, we have formulated the whole curriculum around these themes. If you see NCERT syllabus book, we use thematic approach. That means we have selected, identified important themes that can run from class 1 to 12. So here, if you see class 8 also, you will find that these are the themes around which the syllabus is, moving around. Food, materials, world of living, how things work, moving things, people and ideas, natural phenomena and natural resources. These are the themes around which the whole syllabus runs. Now, how to now the whole purpose of this particular meeting or interaction is how to use our books. Whatever may be the book, I believe strongly, whether it is a state prescribed textbook or a central, NCERT book or ICSE book or any other board book, the basic principles of teaching science remains the same. I just would like to emphasize this. Whichever book it is, ultimately you are dealing or you are transacting the content to the science to the children. Science is a discipline which generally should be taught beginning with child's immediate surroundings. Wherever it is possible, you have to start with the child's immediate surroundings where contextualization becomes very, very essential. NCERT books are developed keeping the national perspective. So illustrations are given from different states. So when you are using our books, try to bring in Andhra Pradesh context, try to bring in your district context, try to bring in your village context, and make it as much as associated as possible with the children's life. So always begin with child surroundings. Relate to his self, relate to his family, relate to his home, relate to the society which is immediate, relate to the neighborhood, and then community at large. When we are trying to relate it to themselves, it becomes easy for the child to understand and retain what he has learned. And how is the NCERT book different from other books? We strongly believe that we should not give definitions and expect the child to rote memorize it. Rather, we believe that child has to be given an opportunity to arrive at it, to formulate it on his own in his own language. Then the teacher can add or give the not prescriptive terminology or the scientific terminology associated to it. But we want the child to come out in his own words. So that is why in the textbook you will not find proper definitions inside the text. This is one issue which many of the states raise, that NCERT books made there is no definition. No, we purposefully avoid giving direct definitions because we want the child to explore, understand and come out with his own definition, formulate his own definition in his own language. And the teacher can help them in extrapolating it or expanding it or making it correct by using the appropriate vocabulary. So that is the important role of teacher which we need to play. Okay, another thing, strongly we believe in NCERT that textbook is not the only resource. We need to use variety of resources. Plurality of resources is what we believe in. That is why in the textbook we try to cite various resources that the teachers can make use of, that the children can make use of while learning science. And then, very important thing which we try to establish in our books, exposure to real world situations. As far as possible, we try to relate it to their real life. Here I request the teachers, biology teachers, whenever you are talking about any conservation mechanisms or adulteration or any concepts when you deal with, you try to relate it to your particular context, the context of the child, so that the child understands it better and he will be able to lead to application level. So this is one thing. Contextualization is very, very essential when you are using our NCERT textbooks. And diversity, because like I have already told you, NCRT develops the textbooks for the whole country, and the country is so diverse. So much diversity is there. So when we try to give the examples, we give examples from nook and corner of the country. When you are dealing with our textbooks, try to give more examples from your state, from your region, from your district, from your village, so that it becomes easy for the child to understand. Now, coming to the salient features of the textbook, I think surely you might have seen the textbook. I will not go into the details, but I would like to say that it is written in a very simple language, and it is made age specific, and we have reduced the density of the concept or minimized the density of the concept. We did not give direct definitions so that the child will arrive at it, and we tried to make the textbook child friendly by making it more interactive using two characters, as I told you, Paheli and Bujo. Like, you know, we want the children to feel that there is an interaction going on between two children like them. So the whole book runs with these two characters, and we tried to make visually appealing by giving lot of pictures. And there is lot of scope for children to draw. Like for example, when we talk about structure of cell or different cell organelles that they need to draw inside this boundary of the cell. So we have given scope for these children to draw. We have given scope for the children to write the answers. So wherever it is possible, we try to give scope for attending or catering to different learning styles of the children. And then there is lot of scope where you can switch from verbal to visual, visual to verbal. You have some pictures and there are certain questions which you can interact with. See, there are n number of activities given in the book. Like for example, if you see, I'll give you some illustrations after this. You will see that a picture is given and you are asked some questions to answer. So we want the teachers to ask the children to see that picture and then have a discussion on that picture. Science is something, which develops open-mindedness among the children, which develops rational thinking, which develops communication skills, and lot of other, attitudes among the children. So these are all possible when we conduct such discussions in the classroom. Then every chapter, if you see, we begin with an introductory note or introductory box which gives a glimpse of the content of the chapter. But we will not say this is what you are going to learn, this is what all learning outcomes are not listed out, all that is not done. But we introduce the chapter, we start the chapter either by storytelling or by a puzzle or by an activity, so that child gets motivated to learn. Even while we teach, it's always better to create the mindset of the children, motivate the children in the beginning of the chapter. And then there are a lot of in-text questions and information in the boxes. Now, in-text questions are leading questions which help you in developing the lesson. That means when you have a question in between, like I'll read out one question for you. Like in the first chapter, crop production and management, if you see, the first page itself has, since we all need food, how can we provide food to a large number of people in our country? See, you are asked, there is a question being asked, and the answer is not given directly, but the chapter is leading towards the answer. So when you are teaching also, you can raise certain questions in the class, have a discussion with the children, get their experience, and then go ahead. So there are a lot of leading questions which will develop the lesson in the class. And there are a lot of discussion boxes. We have given a lot of discussion boxes, or in the boxes we have written activities, exercises, hands-on. You have lot of scope for conducting lot of activities in the classroom. Experiments can be conducted, written exercises are given, discussions are given, data collection is asked to be done. Like that, you have variety of exercises given within the text. That means these are all the things which have to happen in the classroom, in the presence of a teacher, not as a homework. Now, end test examination, end text questions to encourage children to understand rather blindly memorize. There are a lot of questions which are given at the end of the chapter. they include your HOTS as well as general questions. So we expect the child to come out with answers on his own after learning. And activities are inbuilt and are to be done in the classroom. Let me repeat this. Whatever activities are given in the book, you please see that they are conducted in the classroom. When I say they are to be conducted, please involve children in planning as well as implementing, and after implementing, ask them to reflect what they have learned. We want the child to assess his own learning. So we should make a practice from this class onwards that they try to question what they have learned. And then there are different type of questions starting from recalling to the thoughts. And there are questions to imagine a situation. In some boxes, either Bujo or Paheli, there they give a question in which the children are asked to imagine. I tell you, it's a beautiful concept. When you ask that question in the classroom, ask them to imagine and then come out with answers. Let you have a discussion in the classroom. And then use of photos, visuals for student to describe what they see. There are a lot of pictures which are given, which are really thought provoking. You can use the picture, ask the children to observe the picture and tell what they have understood from it. What did they observe in the picture? What I mean to say is there should be a lot of interaction which should go in the classroom. And then use of narratives. Lot of narratives are there which can be used for discussion and introspection. And cartoons are used. Then contemplations and wondering. There are certain aspects where, the child wonders, oh, how did it happen? I have never thought about it. So wondering. Contemplation, there is some information given and you are asked to contemplate on it, think on it, reflect on it. So there are opportunities for such things to happen in the textbook. Now, let me just quickly go to the textbook and help you in relate with what is there in the book. Now, we NCERT books, we tried to make the books as interactive as possible using dialogues here and there in the textbook. Now, if you see, here the first picture, if you see, Paheli and Bhujo went to their uncle's house during the summer vacation. Their uncle is a farmer. One day, they saw some tools like kurpi, sickle, shovel, then plow in the field. Now, this is a context which the teacher is bringing into the class. Somebody in one of the training program asked me, Madam, are we supposed to use the same terminology, same things? No. This is one idea which we have given you. Now you can localize it to your context. The teacher has full freedom to, experiment as per the requirement of the class. So it is not a rule that you should use the same words, same characters, same examples. No, you can give different examples as per your context. So the Bhujo says, I want to know where and how we use these tools. Now, this is the question which is raised by the class in the class. A teacher can ask this question and lead the discussion. Okay, children, where do we use the tools? Where do we use kurpi? How do you use kurpi? What is the use of kurpi? And then probably you can think of showing the tools, or you can, if you have, free period, you can take the children to the garden, give them these tools, ask them to, plow it, or, try to prepare the soil for the planting or sowing the seeds. So it's up to you how you are going to design. But here, one important thing is question. We are trying to ask questions so that the child will come out with plenty more questions of that kind, find answers for his own, and gain experience out of it. That is what is most important that we emphasize in our books. See, there are certain questions that are directly asked by the character, and sometimes they give a statement. Like, for example, food has to be produced on a large scale. Oh, so much food is required. Our country is so big. How can we manage? Then, in order to provide food for large population, regular production, proper management and distribution is necessary. So, this is what is leading the lesson. Oh, so much food is required. Then how are we going to do it? What are the processes that are required? So the text had given information on how to proceed. In the same way, you have, sometimes puzzles given, sometimes some questions are raised. Like, for example, here, when we are talking about adding manures and fertilizers in the textbook, I saw a healthy crop. The child is expressing, I saw a healthy crop growing in a farm. In the neighboring farm, the plants were weak. Why do some plants grow better than others? Maybe instead of reading this, you can narrate about the plants in your garden of the school or plant in your home garden or house garden. You can say, for example, oh, when I was walking through, when I was coming towards the school, I found that some plants are, grown bigger and some are very weak. Why is this so? Now you are asking a question, you are provoking the child to think. And then you can conduct a discussion. Have you seen anything like this at home? The child may come out. The children may discuss amongst each other. See, the point here is allow the children to think, allow the children to question, allow the children to answer, allow the children to debate upon. That is why there is scope which is left open in the form of these boxes. Another thing, see, again, Pahel is saying, I heard my mother and my aunt talking about my cousin who is going to have a baby. They were discussing whether she would give birth to a boy or a girl. I wonder, what makes the first fertilized egg develop either into a boy or a girl? See, this is a context which brought into the class in order to lead the lesson towards sex determination. So here what I would like to say is these contexts are given in the book. You can use these contexts or you can bring in your context and give an example also. But point is you make the child to think. Once you give this type of opportunity for a question or a puzzle or a narration given, then the child will start thinking on those lines. Basically, you are directing child thinking towards one particular concept. That is the main purpose of this whole exercise. What else we do? We always remember that there is a beautiful history behind science and science concepts. So children have to understand how these science concepts have come into the picture. Who are those scientists who have spent their life in coming out with this knowledge base? How did they come out of it? How did they discover? How did they invent? What was the process that is involved? So in a textbook, we have some pieces of information about various scientists. As a teacher, I would not stop with this bit of information. Rather, I may narrate a story of the scientist. I can speak how Robert Koch had discovered, this bacteria or which causes anthrax disease. Only one sentence is given in the book, but there is a big flow of information available. If we can narrate the story or his life history to the children, children will be able to appreciate and maybe they will also try to discover something. Remember one thing, appreciation on the contribution of scientists is something very essential. So in the textbook, we cannot give the life history of the whole, the whole thing about the scientist, but we give in a brief thing a contribution. So as a teacher, when you are coming to this particular chapter, maybe you can narrate the story. Or you can give an activity for the children to come collect the information, come and narrate it in the class. So you can think about the modality, but try to see that the history of science is really narrated in the classroom. In the same way, there are certain boxes in which some additional information is given, which would help the children to extrapolate their understanding or understand the concepts in a better way. For example, in agricultural practices, when we are seeing that chapter, one paragraph is there, which I have just tried to show you on my left side. Till 10,000 BCE, people were nomadic in age. They were wandering in groups from place to place in search of food and shelter. They ate raw fruits, vegetables, and started hunting animals for food. Later, they could cultivate land and produce rice, wheat, and other crops. Thus was born agriculture. So, this is preparing the child towards the agricultural practices. So, the box items or the information that is given in boxes is very, very useful. They help you in linking what has been learned in the past to the present and sometimes to the future. So, we can utilize this in the classroom very well. How you are going to utilize? Again, it is the creativity of the teacher. But remember one thing, we need to tell about the past, how things have come into the picture. It's very, very essential. These are the lessons which the children learn and would really try out in the present and may become future scientists of our country. Now, there are a lot of activities and experiments given in the 8th standard textbook, in biology also. And let me tell you one thing, this 8th standard, still we are not purely going towards disciplinary approach. It is shifting from integrated to disciplinary approach. So we have a mixture of activities and experiments here. There are certain activities where the child is asked to collect something. Like for example, in microorganisms, simple thing is ask the children to collect the moist soil, bring it in a beaker, add little water to it, ask them to see whether the soil particles are settling down, and then as a teacher you can take one drop of water, put it on the microscope and ask the children to observe. So observation skills will be developed, communication skills will be developed, because after observing, he will be describing what he had seen. But let me add on here, let us not restrict only for demonstrations. We need to give the child an opportunity to do. All these activities are not just meant for the teacher to demonstrate. As far as possible, the child has to do all these activities. And that is why most of the activities do not require huge infrastructure and big costly equipment. As far as possible, we try to see that low cost materials are used throughout the textbook. So it is very essential that children should be given an opportunity to handle the equipment, use the materials, observe, narrate, describe. All these skills have to be, practiced in the classroom. For that, you have to give hands-on experience to children. When I say hands-on, it is hands-on of the child, not demonstration. Let me tell you, demonstration many times do not lead to experience. Experience will be gained only when I do something. As far as possible, give the child an experience of doing things on his own. That is most essential. And then there are some questions also. See, for example, they are talking about hormones in animals. Now, in that time, a child may ask a question: if people do not have enough iodine in their diet, will they get goiter caused by the lack of thyroxine? The child may not come out with a question, but a teacher can ask a question. First thing is, do you find hormones in animals also? Now, which hormones are produced? What happens when this hormone is not produced properly in a body? So this questioning helps the child to, the kindling the mind of child. So there are a lot of questions asked like this. You need not restrict to these questions. These are exemplar questions, some questions which we have given. You can think of adding some more questions. You can think of taking questions from the children also. Then see, there are activities of this kind also, where we are saying collect information from magazines or from doctors and prepare a note on the importance of consuming iodized salt. You can also look at this information on the internet. Even I'll tell you, if you take the salt packet Ask them to go to a supermarket, even shop, some grocery shop. Ask them to see different kinds of salt which are there. Let them read what is there in the salt packet, how much, whether it is iodized salt or not. You can think of variety of activities related to it, but try to understand the purpose behind conducting this activity. The purpose behind conducting is two. One is understanding what iodized salt is and the importance of consuming it. Second thing is, and here especially, collecting information. They should learn how to collect information, how to draw information, how to talk to people and collect information. So here it is not just the content, it is the ability to communicate with people. It is the ability to draw information from internet or magazines. So we need to focus on these abilities among the children. In the same way, lot of experiments, if you see, I have given some examples here. One is something you have various options of commuting to your school by walking, cycling, traveling by bus and public transport and car individually. Now, you energy saving conservation when we talk or air pollution when we talk. We are able to teach the concept of air pollution in the classroom, but still we are not able to reduce pollution in the environment. Maybe the question is, how can we do it? I feel personally that unless and until we make our child think and make them accountable for their behavior, this pollution problem can never be solved. So can we think of giving them hypothetical situation and ask them to find alternative solutions to it? So this is possible when you are talking about pollution in the classroom, air pollution or water pollution in the classroom. What is that as an individual you can do? See, ultimately we want our children to conserve nature, conserve environment. This can happen only when they take up that responsibility, when they feel that it is my responsibility to take care of it. What is that my part to conserve nature, conserve environment? So I have to think. If I have to think, the teacher has to provide opportunity to think. The teacher has to kindle the mind, give space for them to interact with each other, discuss with each other, come out with points. You will get to know their attitude also. Remember, one of the curricular expectation is appreciation or contributing to the conservation of environment. It's very essential that we have to make our children think on these lines. Now, another thing, for example, even fitness, if you say, if you give a lecture about fitness, it may not be motivating many times. But can we think of collecting data from their own friends? What do they eat every day? How much time do they spend in exercising? Just give this activity one day before, ask them to collect the data and come next day. There are few things which they can do it immediately in the classroom. Few activities can be given to them, collect the data and come back and discuss the findings in the classroom. The children will learn how to tabulate the data, how to come out with the findings. And when they are doing it, they are even trying to come out with an inference. And when they are inferring, they understand that to remain fit, I have to do somebody had done this, so I also need to do it. So they learn from each other's experience. Then, as a teacher, you can add on some more points that are missed out by the children. Overall, in the whole book, if you see, there are a lot of opportunity for you to conduct activities. Activities have to be conducted in the classroom. Let them discuss. Let them come out with the points. Maybe you can note down all those points on the blackboard and then you can summarize. You can paraphrase. And you can add some more points what is missed out by the children. That is how you can, make this experience rich. And then, you can think of many activities like this and you can have lot of discussions on, posing certain questions directly to the children. Like, why do we need to filter water before drinking? Where do you get your drinking water from? What will happen if we drink polluted water? Let them talk to each other. This can be done in a different way. For example, this is given in the book. If I am a teacher, I may even think of conducting a scientific inquiry also. I may give the two different samples of water. I will bring it to them. I will say that this is drunk by somebody, this is drunk by somebody. This fellow had fallen sick, this fellow did not fallen sick. What could be the reason for it? I can have scientific inquiry process here. I hope all of you would have heard about Suchman's theory of scientific inquiry training model, we say. Probably that's a wonderful model which you can employ here. You ask the children, okay, children, now I have given you the context. You have to come out with questions. I will tell you yes or no. You go ahead with that, find out the solution. So you can have a wonderful activity conducted here. What I mean to say is, don't think that this is the only activity you have to do. You can modify it according to the requirement of the children. But the objective is to make them think, to make them question, to help them in finding the solutions. Like this, you have lot of activities. You have activities of construction. You have activities of investigations. Like for example, in one of the chapter, it is written, let us construct a water filter with simple and everyday materials. These materials are cheap and no cost materials which are available generally in all households. You can ask the children to bring all these materials one day before. The next day you conduct this activity. After the activity, ask them what did they learn. And when they come out with their experiences, if you do this every day, what did you learn? What did you learn? Every day, if you do, I think children will automatically learn reflecting upon their own learning, assessing their own learning, and they become accountable for their own learning. So here you can make them do this activity, and what did they learn from it? What do you observe? What is the scientific process involved in it? You can ask questions. If the children come out with answers, wonderful. If do not come out with answers, you associate the activity and help them in understanding the scientific process involved in it. In the same way, here investigating the level of awareness about water pollution in an area. Many times these surveys help a lot. Wherever possible, you can, if there is they need not go to 100 houses. They can go to 3-4 houses. Collect data. They will learn how to speak to elders. They will learn how to collect data. And once they collect the data, they will understand how to segregate it, how to analyze it, how to come out with the finding. And then when they come back to the school, probably you can ask lot of questions. What did they collect? And then you can extrapolate it with some more new questions like how it is given. What are the common waterborne diseases in the community? Then maybe, you can have a talk with the doctor. And you can find out, which are the governmental and non-governmental organizations that work in this particular field. What are the measures taken up by them for generating awareness among the people? See, there are a lot of questions which keep on adding on. You can add an n number of questions. Depending upon the context and the requirement, you can, modify the questions. Some of the questions we have put it in the book. You can ask many questions accordingly. Then, in most of the cases, let me tell you, this is very important. We have tried to link the concepts of the previous class with the present class, previous textbook with the present textbook. So we tried to link what they have learned in the past with what they are right now learning. Because that is very essential that whatever they have learned in class 7 has to be applied in class 8. So there is a reminder given to the children here and there. For example, here it is written, you have learnt in class 7 that milk is turned into curd by bacteria. And maybe you can start with the class, ask them how curd is made in your home. How does it happen? Let them wonder. See, wondering is something very important. Only when we wonder, we become curious. Or only when we are curious, we wonder at things. So we need to arouse curiosity among the children. So have your class very active and with full of fun and creativity. So try to include lot of activities, lot of questions, lot of exercises in the classroom. See, there are many things like when you are teaching, there may be some application level questions that you can ask. or you can ask, or you can encourage the children to ask. Like when you talk about natural and synthetic fibers, here one Paheli is asking a question. Now, coming to a conclusion. Oh, now I understand why my mother never wears polyester clothes while working in the kitchen. Because you would have thought fabric melts and sticks to the body of the person wearing it if it catches fire. So, we should not wear synthetic clothes while cooking in the kitchen. You told this, immediately the child should apply it or should relate it to what she had found in the life. If they are not coming out with it, can you ask a question? Oh, children, now you understand that synthetic fibers should not be worn. Have you heard of any accident happened? Or you yourself narrate. See, there's a woman who is staying in my neighborhood. She was wearing a polyester sari. When she was cooking, suddenly she caught hold of fire. You can imagine what would have happened to her. So, what is the moral of the story? What do you understand from this? So, they come with an inference. So, there is lot of thinking as well as experimenting as well as inferring and learning through science. Now, another thing is there are a lot of messages given in the boxes. There are precautionary notes. There are preventive measures. There are moral messages given in the box. These are especially for the teachers. The teachers have to focus on these things because I think we teachers are not just meant for teaching the content. Rather, I say in the era of technology, we have lot of sources of information other than us to the students. But teacher is something most important factor in molding the personality of the child. Here comes your role where you need to develop certain moral decision making among the children. Like for example, during Diwali, saying no to crackers is something which is very essential. When you're talking about air pollution, probably we should think of developing this moral responsibility among the children. So there's a message here. In the same way, there is some precautionary things about usage of antibiotics. Why we should not take more antibiotics? Why they are not effective on certain things? Some precautionary note or some preventive measures are given in the boxes which the teacher can relate it to and explain it to the children. Now, in the textbook, we have lot of pictorial assessment and we have provided space for the children to write. So don't think that they should prepare again a new in the notebook, they have to copy and write. Rather, in the classroom itself, when you are teaching the difference between plant cell and animal cell using some teaching aid or an ICT tool, after that, you can ask the children to write the differences, comparing plant and animal cell. Ask them to write the differences between these two and fill the blanks that are given in the box. And then you can even have lot of open-ended questions also. Like, why do you think the plant cell has bigger sized vacuoles, but very small number of vacuoles? You can ask some questions. Let them think about it, find answers. But again, depending upon the cognitive level of the child. Then you have unit end exercises and extended learning. These are the exercises. Once you complete the unit, you can take it up. Or I would suggest you, once you complete that bit of or that portion of content, you can give this as a home assignment to the children. You need not wait till you complete the whole unit. As and when you complete a bit of information, these questions can be answered by the children on their own. It becomes like testing of understanding of the children. So you have variety of questions here. I think teachers, let me tell you, assessment using the NCERT textbooks, we expect that the teachers use variety of test items. It should not be only open-ended questions or multiple choice. We can have variety of questions. We can have questions using concept maps. We can have sequential arrangement. We can have, moving from examples to concept, concept to examples, analogies we can have. We have puzzles. You see that there is a crossword puzzle in front of you. There are a lot of varieties of assessment questions that you can use in the for each chapter. Depending upon the content that you have, you can design your own assessment questions. These are some given in the textbook. You can add many such questions also. Apart from that, for the children who have more curiosity to learn further learning, we have extended learning at also. These are the things which are not to be assessed or put in the exam. Generally, these are meant for the child to do it at home for further learning. So, some, like for example, you can ask the children to sow some seeds in the soil and arrange to water them by drip irrigation. Observe daily. Now, this is very interesting. This you cannot, afford so much time in the at school. You can think of giving it as an extended learning. That means you have finished this chapter. You are giving extended learning to the children who they can do it at home. Please let us understand one thing. There are certain activities which we need to compulsorily do it in the classroom. In-text activities are meant to be conducted in the classroom, whereas extended learning should be conducted after the completion of the unit. Now, like there are so many things which are given. I'm reading out one or two. There's a project work which is given. Visit a farm or a nursery or a garden nearby. Gather the information about importance of seed collection and method of irrigation. Collect pictures of some other agricultural machines and paste them in a file. Write their names and uses. These can be given as projects also after the completion of the unit, or when you are dealing with that part. After you complete dealing with that, you can think of giving this as a project. Ask them to make an album. Ask them to make a, collect some information from some gardener. We are speaking about vocational education. It is very essential that the children should go and speak to various professionals, various fields, so that they understand what is the nature of work of them, what do they get to know. Even that exercise is very good for children. So you can think of giving such projects. Don't give only the projects where they download information from internet and cut copy paste. Rather, you can think of giving some innovative projects where they go and discuss with somebody, collect some information from them, and write what they have understood in one paragraph. Never mind, in their own language. Let them not do it, make their parents do it. Let them do it on their own, in their own language, with their own mistakes. No problem. Because the process is more important. So you can think of these activities to be given while teaching the biology, especially biology I'm trying to talk about. Now here there are various activities that can be done in the classroom apart from what is there in the book. You can have demonstrations, some of them. Project works can be given, as I told you, crossword puzzles, quizzes can be conducted, science exhibition, field trips, science journals. This is one thing, science journals can be read, role plays, creative writing. These things can be done. But as a teacher, all these things, what you are going to do it in the classroom, they have to be done keeping these points in mind. First one, use only local resources. Let them not buy things. We don't want the children to buy things, because every household, they may not have money to spend so much. So better go for some local resources, easily available materials, cheap and no cost materials to be used. Second thing, whatever activity you are giving, try to link it with learning outcomes, because our whole assessment will be based on learning outcomes from now onwards. So it's better, whatever activity we do, whatever we teach, let us try to map it with learning outcomes first. Like if I am asking the children to do a survey, then what is that learning outcome that they are going to attain? There is a learning outcome in class 8, which where you try to collect the data and, compare and contrast and so on and so forth. So maybe that learning outcome can be attained through this activity. You need to map. You need to have learning outcomes in mind whenever you are giving some activity, because we want the child to learn something out of it. And then assessment should be inbuilt. Whatever work you are giving, whether you are giving a crossword puzzle, then assessment must be involved in it. How are you going to assess the crossword puzzle? You have given crossword puzzle to children. They have filled it and brought it. Now, how are you going to assess it? How are you going to give feedback? Probably we need to have a mechanism for that, because these are all inbuilt in the text. So when I'm teaching, I'm giving a question to them. They are finding an answer for it. Once they are giving the answer, there itself assessment should happen. Assessment happens as a inbuilt component in teaching learning process. After completion of one whole unit, assessment happens. That is different. But every day assessment should happen. It should become an inbuilt component, so that children progress will be understood by us. At the same time, child also understands where he stands, and he takes accountability on himself of his learning. Then, in our textbooks, we try to always keep some concerns, national concerns in mind, like gender sensitivity, inclusion, technology integration. All these things we try to make it a inbuilt component and integrate in the content. So wherever it is possible, try to build these things among the children. So these are some of the points that are very essential for all of us to look into when we are using this book. So ultimately, what I would like to tell is we need to provide opportunities for the child to experiment. I'm repeating, for the child to experiment, not you doing a demonstration. The biggest problem is many a times we do a demonstration thinking that children are observing and they understand. There is no guarantee. I might be seeing, I might not be observing. I might not have learned anything from that. But if I ask the child to do something, write what he had learned or share what he had learned, then surely he might be gaining some experience. So allow the child to experiment. Allow the child to contemplate. You are reading a piece of scientific literature, ask them to think what it is and then reflect on what he has done. Create something new, ask them to construct something new, interact with each other. I tell you one thing, interaction is must. Biology is a subject where lot of description is required, lot of communication is required, lot of thinking, questioning is there. They need to question, they need to find answers. Lot of hows and whys. How is it happening? How is plant cell different from animal cell? What is the function of nucleus? So we need to develop the ability among the children to question, especially hows and whys. We should not stop at what. All the competitive exams roll around or move around whys and hows. So we need to develop that ability among the children so that our children will stay, go further. They can crack any competitive exams easily. We need to develop these abilities in the classroom, not in the coaching centers. Right. Then draws, shares, designs. Let the child design some experiment. Let you not tell how to make it. Let him come out with his own idea how to do it. So for that, let him design, let him plan, let him implement it. Let him then, evaluate what he has done. We want our children to become self-learners. So there's a lot of possibility we can do it in the classroom itself. So these are some of the things for which opportunities have to be provided to the children. For this, you can use n number of resources. I have just listed out a few of them. Environment itself is a resource. Television, e-resources. Nowadays, you have lot of e-resources, whether it is your AP portal or NCERT's portals, NROER, e-Pathshala, and many resources are available. You can make use of them. Newspapers become wonderful resource. Media and films, interaction with elders, parks and gardens, and all community resources. Interaction with elders, I think we should develop this wherever it is required, especially in biology, where we are talking about natural resources or natural environment. I think We have lot of opportunities that can be provided to children on, where they go and talk to elders. Because remember one thing, there is a lot of social responsibility on us as teachers. We need to develop respect towards life, respect towards elders, and they need to develop communication skills. So for that, interaction is one of the important tools that has to be used often in our classrooms. And then coming to learning outcomes, I just would like to touch this because uh, whatever may be the textbook, ultimately, what did the child learn? There should be some yardstick to say that the child has learned this. So, learning outcomes are process based checkpoints. Why I am calling it as processes? It is not that after you complete the syllabus, you are checking it. No. When the class is going on, when I am sending a child to do a survey in his neighborhood, I want to know how many people, how many ACs or how many fans or how many bulbs are used in the neighborhood, in each house, a small survey. Or I want them to visit a garden and take note of different kinds of plants and organisms found in that garden. They may make a note of it. Whatever survey they are doing. Now, what is that learning outcome that they are going to attain in the process? As a teacher, I need to have an understanding of it. So, what I request you is any activity when you are giving, please map it with the learning outcomes that are developed by your state or by NCERT. We have learning outcomes document here. I hope all of you might have seen this yellow book. It is there available on the website. You can download it and see for class 8 learning outcomes. I will show you that anyway. But understand one thing, these learning outcome, just because the term outcome is there, don't think that it is at the end of the chapter. No. It is basically process based. I stress again and again, I repeat, they are process based. That means every day when you are teaching, you need to have these checkpoints. So when you are designing a lesson, you have to keep in mind, okay, today I am going to teach this part of lesson. So what are the learning outcomes that they are going to learn? Okay, they may learn identifying, they may learn classifying, they may learn, collecting information. So you make a note of those things and check how they have done it. Your assessment gets over then and there. So your planning has to be done in such a way that whatever activity you are conducting, you should know for what purpose you are doing it and how are you going to assess it. What are you going to assess and how are you going to assess? So learning outcomes are process based, qualitative and quantitative manner. I hope I am audible. Hello?
Yes, madam. Okay, madam. Carry on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Okay, madam.
So this is thank you. So there are these are process-based checkpoints. That's why I'm calling it as checkpoint. Checkpoint is throughout the year you are going to check. It is not in one after completion of a unit or only semester or end term exam. No, they are checkpoints. That means they are checked every day. So you need to make a list of learning outcomes and put a box with you. Okay, this activity, these learning outcomes can be attained. That is how they learn things better. They improve their skills at the, throughout the year. It's a process. It's not an end product that you are going to test. Okay. So, and these are measurable in qualitative and quantitative manner. If you see the learning outcome, there are certain learning outcomes which can be assessed qualitatively. They might not be done quantitatively. So, our assessment should be both qualitative and quantitative in nature. Now, these learning outcomes for science class 8, we have it in that book which I have shown you just now. See, this is the page you can see in this. In this, we have a list of learning outcomes on the right side and left side. I mean, my left side, we have suggested pedagogical processes. If you see, the first learning outcome is differentiates organisms, okay, or materials such as natural and human-made fibers, contact and non-contact forces, viviparous, oviparous, plants and animal cells based on their property, structure and functions. Now, in the textbook, just now I have shown you one pictorial assessment where you have taught what a plant cell and animal cell is, and then you are leaving a tabular column empty, expecting the child to write the differences, right? This is the activity you are doing. So, which learning outcome you are assessing? You are assessing this first learning outcome. What is that first learning outcome? Differentiating plant and animal cell based on the structure and function. So you are trying to assess this learning outcome through that activity. Are you getting me? So when you are teaching like this, you need to map with the learning outcomes, go back, assess them, and then again move ahead. This is how you are going to do it. Now, let me just speak about learning outcome and the teaching learning process and assessment, the linkage between them. Second one, if you see, classifies. What do we classify? We classify organisms, we classify types of reproduction, we classify different natural resources and so on and so forth, which is there in the textbook. Now, this is there, for example, classifying useful and harmful microorganisms in the chapter. Now, when I am teaching this chapter, in that, I found that there is a concept of useful microorganism and harmful microorganisms. We want the children to classify these organisms into useful and harmful microorganisms so that they understand that these useful organisms can be made use of by the human beings, whereas harmful microorganisms may cause diseases. Hence, we need to be very careful with harmful microorganisms. How are we going to teach? In the textbook, there are activities given where they identify or collect information related to various diseases that are spread through microorganisms. Right? So, what do you mean by classifying? First of all, as a teacher, we know what is classifying. Classifying is nothing but a mechanism or a process wherein a child observes various things, identifies the characteristic features. Okay, let me take a simple example here. If you take exhaustible and inexhaustible natural resources, assume that you are giving a list of resources you are writing on the board. Okay, and then you ask the children, okay, children, can you group them into different categories? Ask the child to do it on his own. Each child will come out with his own classification. Then you ask them, how did they classify? What is the basis on which they have classified into categories? Like, I might have classified saying that these are all naturally available. Okay, somebody else would have said that these get exhausted. So they come out with their own classifications. Basically, what are you encouraging? You are encouraging the children to observe them. That is why I'm saying, if you write on the board, they may not be able to visualize. So better at least give them a picture of it or show a video. Ask them to observe that. After observing, what do they observe? They observe the characteristic features. And then, based on the characteristic features, they group them and classify the things. So, petroleum is there, wood is there, water is there, so many resources you are talking about. Based upon the exhaustible nature, they categorize them into two. One which get exhausted, other one which do not get exhausted. So this process has to be encouraged. For that, you have to conduct the activity. If you are writing on the board exhaustible, inexhaustible differences and just explain, the child may not experience it. the child may not get an insight of it. So it is very essential for the child hello.
Okay, okay. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
carry on,
yeah,
ma'am.
Yes, madam. Continue.
yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. So this is about learning outcomes. If you see, these are the list of learning outcomes that we have. Hello, am I audible?
yes, 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 ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, there's some network issue. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So these are the learning outcomes, a list of learning outcomes. I'll not go and read all of them, but I want you to understand that whichever activity is given in the textbook, try to see which learning outcome can be developed or attained through that activity, because this is very essential for your assessment. So learning outcomes are basically the process statements which help you in checking what the child has learned in the teaching learning process. So you need to go and map them and then assess them. So here these are the learning outcomes that are given. You can write the way you want. I think if your AP state had come out with learning outcomes, you can use those learning outcomes also. So these are the things, these are the learning outcomes that you have. Now, let us try to understand how we need to plan a lesson, how we need to teach using our textbook. Now, first and foremost thing, if I take a chapter in this textbook, let me take first chapter, crop production and management. Now, this is the chapter which is basically help us or help the child understand about the proper management, production, management, and distribution of food basically. So, how exactly it happens? The whole chapter dwells on it. So, what are we going to do? We are going to read the whole chapter and then see what are the activities that need to be carried out and what are the learning outcomes that are associated to it, plan an assessment mechanism for it before the hand, so that in the class when you are teaching, assessment also goes on simultaneously. Otherwise, what will happen if you are not testing them at all throughout the chapter? At the end of the chapter, you are giving questions and answers. You ask them to find the answers. You will not get to know where the child got stuck up. In NCERT, we do not believe in diagnosis at the end or before. We believe that diagnosis should happen, as an inbuilt process. Every day you need to find out where the child is. Where is he getting stuck up? Where is he finding it difficult? So that you can correct him then and there. So we don't use separate diagnostic tests or anything, or we don't believe in that. We believe that diagnosis is an inbuilt process of teaching learning. That is why assessment should happen as in a progressive manner at every stage of lesson. So whenever you are conducting activity, assessment should happen. Assessment means I am not saying you should have a test all the time. No. Even the statements which the child is given, you should check to what extent they have attained the learning outcome. If the child is able to classify only 5 things, the remaining 10 things he could not classify, even that is assessment. There you can have a comment saying that the child could only assess these many things. That means classifying skill has to be improved among the children. Maybe in the next class, when there is an opportunity for you to improve classifying skill among the child, you can think of checking that particular child how much he has improved. So that is how you can check the progress of every child in the classroom. Now, uh, see, I was talking about these learning outcomes can be assessed both qualitatively and quantitatively. There are certain learning outcomes. If you see the last 3 learning outcomes, makes efforts to protect environment. Example, using resources judiciously. Now, how are you going to assess this? You may ask questions. Multiple choice deke, you can think of giving choices, ask them to put a tick mark. Okay, how much, like maybe how will you reduce the usage of water in your at home at individual level? I will reduce the number of, instead of using a flesh, I will use a bucket full of water or half a bucket of water. Now, you may give situational type of questions, but still there is certain things which need to be observed. So making efforts to protect the environment, I think sometimes it is more qualitative in nature, where you need to observe to what extent the child is making efforts. You can use paper pencil test also, but you should also have qualitative assessment here. In the same way, exhibits creativity in designing, planning, making use of available resources. This also, it can be tested through paper pencil test, but you can observe it again. At the same time, exhibits values of honesty, objectivity, cooperation, freedom from fear and prejudices. You may have a rating scale, but still, as a teacher, you need to observe how creative they are, how honest they are, to what extent they are objective in their observations. When they are doing an activity, maybe you can observe them. Are they giving the correct reading to you? Or are they copying somebody else and sharing it with you? How intellectually they are honest. See, these are all something which need to be observed. That's why learning outcomes, some of them have to be assessed qualitatively also. So these are some of the learning outcomes of that kind, these three which I have read out just now. Now, how do you plan? As I told you, there are already a lot of activities given. If you want to organize some more activities, or some activities if you feel that you can replace with the activities that you have in your mind, you can even do that. These are all some activities given. You can go beyond that, but a minimum number of activities have to be performed, have to be conducted in the classroom. Otherwise child will never learn the concepts properly. Child arrives at the concept. Let us repeat it. Child arrives at the concept, attains the concept. It is not the teacher who is giving a concept to him. Teacher is not giving a definition to the child. A child has to define on his own. For that, you have to provide opportunity. That is why in our textbooks we give lot of activities, so that child comes out with his own explanation, his own description, his own definition. And then maybe using the scientific vocabulary, the teacher can give a definition. Never mind. But rather, even in NCERT, we also strongly say that you have to encourage the child to write answers in their own language, not textual language. We don't want the child to memorize and write the answer. We will appreciate if the child write in his own language. Never mind if he had written in a very poor language, or vocabulary is not correct, but still we appreciate that, because ultimately the child is in the learning process. Now these are different ways in which the classes can be conducted. Activities can be conducted. It can be a project work, field visit, paired work, individual presentation. You can have timely observation and feedback, written work, self-assessment, paired or peer assessment, anecdotes, logbooks. All these can be used for assessing the children. Depending upon the type of learning outcome, the type of activity conducted, and the time that which is there with you, you can take a call on how to assess it. But assessment should go as an integral part of teaching learning process. Now these are some of the learning outcomes. I just now explained it to you. Plans and conducting investigations on experiments to arrive at and verify the facts, principles, all these things. If somebody has to attain this particular learning outcome, what is required? What is required? It is not enough if the teacher designs and conduct a demonstration, because child will never learn to plan. He will learn to plan only when he is given opportunity to plan, right? So here the teacher has to be a facilitator, help the children in planning and conducting the investigation. So depending upon the learning outcome, one has to take a call. That's what I mean to say. Now coming to the role of teacher, what is that you are going to do? I think all of you would have heard about instructional designing. Or in simple terms, we have been using these steps while planning a lesson. First and foremost step is I read the lesson carefully, analyze the content, and understand what type of content is it, what type of knowledge is there in that lesson. So whether the lesson is just a descriptive lesson, whether there is the lesson is investigatory in nature. See, for example, when I talk about diseases, when I talk about parts of a plant or parts of a cell, there are two different kinds of knowledge. So I need to understand what type of knowledge is that, so that I can design the lesson accordingly. So here first you read the content, read the lesson properly, understand what type of knowledge it has, what type of attitude can be developed among the children. Can we develop intellectual honesty through this lesson? Can we develop rationality or rational thinking through this lesson? Is there any possibility? Because every lesson may not have every possibility. There are few lessons where you can develop objectivity. There are few lessons where you can, develop, willingness to suspend superstitious beliefs or wrong judgments. So you have to take a call. What can we develop through this lesson? What are the process skills that can be developed through this lesson? If there is a possibility of conducting an experiment, then probably there are certain process skills that can be developed. If there is a possibility of conducting a discussion, then there is a different set of process skills that can be developed. So, which are the process skills that can be developed through your lesson? And what are the values that you can develop through this lesson? Which behaviors you can develop through this lesson? Like this, once you read the lesson thoroughly, you make a list of these points in your mind. These are all nothing but your objectives that you keep in mind for teaching a lesson. And then what you do, you map it with your learning outcomes. That is very, very essential, because now onwards, everything like whether it is NAS or SLAS or any assessments which is at a larger level will be using learning outcomes. So better always learn to map learning outcomes with each lesson. And then next, coming to the next part, okay, we understood the content to which we need to which we need to teach or transact. Now comes understanding the learners. Who is sitting in front of you? Is it a rural child who has very less exposure towards various things? Is it an urban child? Is a child having some challenges? What, whether the child is interested in learning, or is he having any specific interest? Is he having specific abilities? How does he want to learn? What is his learning style? Is he interested in listening and learning? Is he interested in seeing and learning? Is he interested in doing and learning? How is he interested in learning? And what is the context in which he is learning? So we need to understand our children. And then accordingly, we need to put the content through the activities and teach them. That means based upon the child's nature, child's abilities, child's interests, we design the content, we transform the content and present it in such a way that they gain experiences from it. That means you will design activities, conduct activities and help the child in gaining experiences. And then all these things can happen only when there is interactive environment. If you do not give scope for the child to talk, nothing is possible. And especially a subject like science, we need to give democratic environment to the child so that he can ask questions. We want our children to become curious. Unfortunately, when we are snubbing them, their curiosity is lost. See, unless and until our children are curious, we cannot expect that the scientists will come out of the next generation. So their curiosity has to be aroused and it has to be sustained. So an environment has to be provided for that. And next important thing is assessment should be an integral part of the teaching learning process. I have been repeating this again and again because now that new education policy also speaks about self-assessment, peer assessment, teacher assessment, and it speaks about continuous assessment, 360-degree assessment. holistic assessment. So many terms are used. All these terms speak of one thing, that assessment should be continuous, integral part of teaching learning process, and assessment should not be only for marks. Assessment should not be only for cognitive abilities. It should be for affective and psychomotor. That means you need to check their attitudes, you need to check their interests, you need to check their values, you need to check their skills. So whenever you are teaching something, try to think of how am I going to assess them. I am not talking about recording and reporting. I am talking about assessment right now. So let us try to understand that assessment should be integral part of teaching learning process. And then last but not the least and the most important part is reflecting on performance of teacher and student. See, many a time, most of the times we try to say how the children are performing. Probably as teachers, we need to reflect about our own performance also. How did I teach today? What materials I have used? Was I capable of meeting at the requirements? What was the reason that I could not do the way I wanted to? How can I improve myself? What assessment should have been used? Probably I need to ask many questions to myself so that I can improve upon. So reflection is meant for both teacher and student. And then ultimately, what we need to do is, I know whether it is a state government book or a CBSE book or NCERT book or any private publisher, whatever may be the book that you use, as a teacher, we need to plan before we go to the class. Without prior planning, we should not enter the class because every batch is different. The context might be different. So we need to go prepared. We need to go with various learning resources to develop curiosity among the children. If you go only with the textbook, then I don't think we'll be able to do justice to children and the values to children and develop expected among them. So that's why I request you, all of you, that I appeal to you that if you follow these steps, it will help you a lot in long run. First and foremost thing, read the content thoroughly. Read each and every line of the textbook thoroughly, once, twice, and then list out the important points or ideas. What are the important things that you need to cover in this textbook? Do that. Learning outcomes, please write down that. And then outcomes, please write down that. When I say pedagogical processes, it means that assessment is also an integral component of teaching learning process. And then design and implement the lesson, draft a lesson and implement it in the classroom. And once you come out of the classroom, reflect on your own. Once you come out of the classroom, please reflect whether I have followed this, whether I have made these changes in my class. What should I do in future? Probably we need to plan. Teaching is a profession which is, I tell you, evergreen and dynamic, and every time it's a new experience. So I feel that teachers, we have a great role to play, and the best part is we enjoy doing this and we improve, along with the children. So it's a continuous process. That's why we call CPD, continuous professional development, because every day is a learning experience. Everything we learn. So even this NCERT textbook is not very different from other textbooks. Only thing is, in NCERT, we believe strongly that we should not encourage children rote memorization. We want children to come on their own, construct knowledge, formulate generalizations, write definitions on their own. And for this, we provide lot of scope and opportunities for them to discuss with each other, share with the teacher, talk with their friends, and write, draw, do variety of activity, involve in variety of activities. And let me tell you one more thing, that in NCERT we strongly believe there is no co-curricular or extracurricular activities. Everything is a curricular activity. When I say science learning or biology learning, when you're conducting a debate on sex determination, debate is also a curricular activity. Don't think that it is extracurricular. If you are conducting a role play, that means it is also curricular activity. You can assess that also. There is no extra or co-curricular activities now. We believe that everything is a curricular activity. Child is learning from all these experiences. So curriculum includes all the experiences which the child gains in the classroom and outside the classroom. Hence, biology can be learned, when he becomes a part and parcel of, the environment. So you can take them outside when you are teaching about plants, types of plants and all. Or you can bring gardener to your school and ask him to talk and share with the children. So you think of what are the possibilities that you can have while teaching learning process. Another important point which I would like to stress here is, don't think that the textbook is be all and end all. This is one of the resource. We can use n number of resources, especially NCERT. We strongly believe that teaching learning process should have plurality of resources. Textbook is only one among them. So don't cling on to only textbook. Try to use multiple resources while teaching learning in the classroom. And wherever you want, you can include variety of other activities also. You can modify these activities. But remember one thing, the purpose should not change. If you have 3-4 activities for one particular content, you can do at least 2 of them. But remember one thing, not just demonstration. Try to involve children. Let children do those activities, not you demonstrating all the time. Unfortunately, these activities, if you demonstrate, then they will not fetch the purpose. So I request you, please conduct as many activities as possible. Involve the children in conducting the activities and experiments. Come out with their own solutions. As far as possible, I love children to think, talk, share, and reflect. I think that's the message I would like to leave it to you. Otherwise, see one thing, you have been teaching, there is nothing new which I have spoken, except for the thing that I love the children to do activities. This is first and foremost thing which I would like to. And the last thing which I would like to say is, please allow children to do activities. Please conduct the activities in the classroom. Don't give them as homeworks. And assessment should be integral part of teaching learning process. With this, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. If there are any questions or queries, we can take up. Ramesh sir? Giribabu sir, are you there?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Our teachers are asking the question is, how to transform the lab activity for biological science activities in a field or lab, in the field or in the lab, how to integrate the physical science along with physical science? Because the 8th class textbook is including that physical science and biological science is in our state, the both are separated in this year. Yes. So how to conduct the activities or projects or experiments in lab or classroom or out of environment or field trip also. So how to conduct the experiments along with physical science or along with the integral part of other subjects. How to manage the timetable? How to manage
Sir,
the
one at a
timetable?
time. One at a time. Let me finish answering this, then we'll go to the next one.
Yes. How to evaluate the assessment also? Student evaluation part is. Please share the ideas about that one. Please, you have.
Okay. I think let me answer your first query. I'm very happy for asking this question and I'm thankful for reminding me. Let me tell you one thing. Till class 8, we have been using integrated approach. I told you that when you shift to class 9, it is disciplinary approach that we use in our textbooks. So, in class 8, that's why we have only one book. But of course, chapters are there which are, focusing on biology, natural sciences, and physical sciences separately. But while teaching, we believe strongly that we need to teach it in a holistic way. Like when I'm teaching biology, if there is any chemistry or physics coming in it, we have to attend to it. Rather, now the new education policy speaks about multidisciplinary approach. So I request all of you, when you're conducting an activity, I feel you can do team teaching also. If you are having two teachers, one physical science teacher and one biology teacher, both the teachers can plan activities and do it together also. You can club 2, 3 activities and conduct it in one class also. Even that is possible. Actually, children will enjoy doing it. Only thing is you have to plan which content, which chapter, which activities can be clubbed together and done. Even that way you can do. Because especially surveys, you can think of doing it like that. First thing. Second thing, field trips can be done like that. You have to plan the field trip in such a way. Like for example, water treatment plant, if you are taking the children, then
Yes.
you have lot of chemistry involved in it, physics involved in it, biology involved in it. Maybe the natural science and physical science teacher should sit together and think of the worksheet that you are going to give it to the children who are going for field visit. So that is one way you can plan. And again, when you are planning, please map with the learning outcomes and think of the assessment. How are you going to assess them? Right? So you can,
Yes.
one is team teaching. I would really tell you one thing. I had a good experience of team teaching with my colleague, which I can never forget. It's really wonderful. You enjoy doing it when you go for team teaching. This is one thing. Second thing is group activities can be conducted where you can think of bringing biological perspective or natural science perspective in one group and physical science perspective in the other group, and then ask these children to present their notions or findings. When they are presenting together, as a teacher you can integrate them. Even that way you can do it. Then thirdly, which is most important, is biology teacher, when I am teaching about water pollution, just because I have done my MSc zoology or MSc botany doesn't mean that I will not talk about chemistry. Subject for the child, it is still integrated, just the chapters are different. So we need to understand the chemistry part of it. Either we learn from our partners, or you call your chemistry partner and then do a team teaching. But we should not speak only from biology perspective. We should have an integrated perspective here. So I think planning is very essential. Sit together and plan. That's the only way out. Because let me tell you one thing, I think in coming years, we are thinking about cross-curricular pedagogies and multidisciplinary approaches, where we are going to look at one particular piece of content from different lenses. Like for example, soil, when I talk about, there may be a different way of looking at soil from a biology teacher's perspective, from a geography teacher, from a mathematics teacher, from a physics teacher. So can we think of bringing that culture in teaching learning process in the class? I think this is what is policy is speaking about, and probably we need to encourage this thought process among the teachers. So I request you to think holistically, present it in an integrated manner. This is my answer. I hope I answered your query.
Okay.
Second
Thank you, Mana.
question.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Mana. Thank you very much, Mana. You
Acha
share
Giri
the
Babuji,
lot of ideas and
let
thoughts.
Dr. Giri Babu, let me answer the second question. This is about evaluation. Let me tell you again, I have been repeatedly telling you that any activities which you conduct, try to have assessment as an inbuilt component in it. Assessment
Yes.
as an inbuilt component in it, when I say there are different assessment tools that can be used. When you are giving a worksheet is a tool that you are giving. The answers provided by them should be assessed. So you need to have a criteria for that assessment. What is right, what is wrong, you need to identify, and then either you give a grade or a mark or a qualitative description for their answers. That is what is assessment. Now, second thing, when you are giving a project, again, the project can be assessed through rubrics. Okay, you can think of developing a rubric when you are planning to send the children for survey. That rubric can be designed with the help of children. That would be the best method. Like survey, when you are sending the children for survey, you have to explain the children how they are going to conduct the survey. What is the topic of the survey, how they will conduct, what questions they will ask, how they are going to record, how they are going to report, and what will be their structure of the report. Now, these pointers can be there taken up, and you can design a rubric with the help of children, explain them how to use this rubric. You can use this as a peer assessment tool. Class 8 children, they can do wonderfully well. We have tried out it. It worked out very well. So let them prepare a rubric, take it along with them. One person doing that, other person will record it. Or group activity, 5 to 8 children are doing one survey, one person will do this whole process of recording on the rubric. So that you can use for field trips and surveys. Like this, you have to plan assessment formats for different activities. I'm not saying that for every activity you need to have a format, but there are certain activities where a format is required so that you will have a track of how the child is progressing. And when you are assessing, please try to see that you have self-assessment, reflection. When they are doing something on their own, when they are contemplating, when they are thinking, when you are questioning, when you are asking them to tell a reason, ask them to reflect on their own answer. That is self-assessment. Peer assessment, like presentation, you are asking the children to present their report. They have gone to the neighborhood, collected the data, and they have come out with some findings. Let them present it in the class. The other children can become peer assessors. They can sit and assess how the child is presenting. So his presentation skills will be assessed by their own friends. That is peer assessment. Teacher assessment, anyway you are doing it. There's nothing new in it. So all the three can be brought in. So assessment can be done like this. And when it comes to evaluation, your summative examination, I feel you will have more of application level questions. We will not restrict much to knowledge level questions. Knowledge level questions will be there, a small percentage, but we'll have more number of understanding and application level questions. That's why I'm telling, if you can bring in understanding and application level questions in everyday's activity, it becomes easy for the child as well as for us to in the assessment. So that's all. Is there any other query or question?
Okay, madam. Thank you. But how to put an answer for application type questions in that examinations? Is there any clarification? Is there?
How to? Sorry, sir, I didn't get
How
you.
to put the answer for application questions in the examinations?
See, there are application questions. If you see the CBSE format or what we in NCERT, when we develop exemplar questions, they can be in multiple choice. They can be in open-ended questions also. Multiple choice, of course, you can have one, and you can have multi-select questions also. Multi-select questions can have more than one option. Like one question with eight or seven options will be given, and they can select more than one option as an answer. So multi-select options also can be given. Third thing, you can have open-ended questions where they tell how they will apply some principle in finding a solution for a problem. For example, application level, if you ask me, I have taught about air pollution to the children. Now, at home, as a class 8 children, what can you do at individual level in order to reduce pollution at home? If you ask an open-ended question, they may come out with some specific solutions, what they can do at their end. That is what is ultimately application here. So it all depends upon the content and the context, how you are formulating the question. But answers can be open-ended as well as, because our question papers will have both descriptive as well as objective questions.
Okay, madam. Okay, thank you, madam. Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you a lot of give the sharing the ideas and thoughts and the process of pedagogical process to our AP biological teachers. Thank you, one and all. our director also, our director SCRT sir, and CHV Ramesh also. Sir, thank you one and all. So today we will conclusion or close to the session. Thank you, madam. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
Sir.
Good
Namaste,
afternoon.
Ramesh sir.
Thank you so much, madam, for your valuable suggestions. And we have created one Google form link, madam, that was sent to all the participants. They will give the feedback and suggestions also, madam. The same will be share it to you, madam.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Girbab Garu, for conducting orientation
Thank you, sir.
textbook. And
Thank you, sir.
Girbab,
Thank you.
at this point of time, I should say we should be grateful to NCERT for giving the copyright and their support. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you. Well done this session, sir. Thank you.